What up, beautiful babies? It's the Madden Curse. We're going to do the recap of Week 10, updated standings, and Week 11 matchups and predictions. Same shit we do every week. Let's go right into it. The first matchup of the week was myself versus. Started that one with a hard. First matchup of the week was myself versus my number one fan, Marshall. The only reason I make these videos, this was a bittersweet match since I won 127 to 87. Pulling up my rankings. One day I'll have these up first. My picks, I should say. I did pick myself this week. Um, you know, it was. I thought it was going to be a closer matchup. There were some tough spots in Marshall's lineup. He had Jared Goff, who got 21. Montgomery got 21. Joe Mixon had 15. DJ Moore had 11. Jahan Dotson had 0. Jonnu Smith, who has actually had a pretty good season so far, had 1. And then Michael Thomas had 2 points. So he had some pop with the Lions. Joe Mixon did pretty well, and then just kind of the bottom half of the lineup just kind of fell out. He did have some guys on buys: Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, and Khalil Herbert is still injured, and Kyron Williams is also uh, hurt and on bye, and Justin Jefferson is still on IR. Is he coming back? I don't know. We might see in the matchups if there's any news there. On my side, Joe Burrow had 20, Brees Hall had 14, Josh Jacobs had 20, Sun God Amonra 31, Tank Dell had 19, Sammy the Porta 8 points, and then I made a horrible mistake and I flexed Drake London and got 7 points. I left another Texans player on the bench and they scored another 30 points. So that hurt. That hurts. I think I had a shot this week. I would not have got high score. That was actually obliterated by somebody we'll talk about later. I think last week I would have had the high score if I had started Tank Dell over whoever, Christian Watson. But hey, you live and you learn. At this point, a victory is a victory. So fuck it, right? Who cares? Um, but next year, that's $20, and I'm gonna be really fucking upset if I sit a guy that scores 30 points and I lose out on $20. But those are future problems. Second matchup of the week. We're 1-0 on those picks. BT Dub. I'm 10-0 for the year. Marshall is 4-6. Still in the playoff hunt. The next matchup, Brent and Scott. This was the closest matchup of the week. This is probably the closest matchup of the entire season. Brent won 116.28 to Scott's 116.19. We're gonna look at the bench on this one because I gotta imagine there's gonna be something there. Um, with the win, Brent is 3-7 and Scott is 2-8. I believe Scott is currently in the lead for the Sacko. Him and Dan have the same record. Remember, it's lowest record. If there's a tie on the record, it's lowest points. And I think that might be Scott, but we'll double check. It's obviously going to be what the system says, and it's after the regular season, guys. So this isn't going to take account the playoffs. You could win the Sacko, and then you could win the losers playoff bracket. That'd be a nice prize to yourself for having to deal with that Reddit roast because we know it's going to be rapey. And even if you're not fat, they're going to call you fat. And if you are fat, they're going to call you real fat. Um, and that's pretty much how it goes. So, I'm going to pray for everybody on that. But again, close matchup. CJ Stroud, 19. Jalen Warren, 23. This is on Scott's side. Ramondre Stevenson, 18. Amari Cooper, 16. DeAndre Hopkins, 6. I'm just laughing because I'm reading out half. I just named out half of JT's old team. Um, Evan Ingram, 5. Brandon Ayuk, 14 and a half. And on his bench, oh man, this is probably the toughest one. And honestly, I'm not sure. The Vikings defense got started over the Niners defense. The only reason I can think is because the Saints, I think Carr's hurt. I think they're playing Jameis Winston, and the Niners are playing the Jags, who were supposed to be a good offense. They got beat 34-3 though. The Niners put up 19 points, subbing out the two defenses. That would have got Scott the victory. He had two wide receivers with 17 and 20 apiece. He could have subbed that either one over DeAndre Hopkins or even Ayuk because it was so close score wise and got the victory. This is tough. I mean, like I said, I'm not benching Ayuk for Tyler Boyd or Cortland Sutton. The Niners D over the Vikings, I probably would have done that respectfully, but I also don't like to carry multiple defenses. I think I am right now, and this is the first time I have all season, and that's just because I don't really feel good about the defense. But I like to usually try to hold one of these, especially if I got a good one like the Niners, because if I've got another defense on the bench that does good, I'll just look at it and be like, damn, what an idiot. But if it's not there, then it's the only play I could have made. So we did what we could have. I don't. I just blacked out. What? On Brent's side, Sam Howell. Sam Howell's been balling. I think he's like top five QB for the year now. Yep, he's fifth. 24 points. Aaron Jones, 13 points. Chuba Hubbard, 8 points. Devontae Adams, 15 points. Debo Samuel, 16 points. Logan Thomas, 9 points. DK Metcalf, 17 points. So good games there. Brent could have started Antonio Gibson, who had 17 and a half. I mean, he could start him over Chuba Hubbard and would have been not quite as close, but he got the victory, As Dom Toretto would say, it don't matter what he went by, or mile. Nas is Nas, and family's family. Congrats, Brent. Still in the playoff hunt. Scott, I don't. At 2-8, I'm gonna say the 2-8 teams are out. Might not be mathematically, but it's basically mathematically. But I got love for you boys. The next matchup, speaking of 2-8, Dan versus Jason. Jason won this matchup 124-105, putting Dan at 2-8. Jason is 5-5. I picked Jason to win. He didn't let me down. I did pick Scott to win. I think I forgot to mention that. Got that one wrong. 2-1 for the week. On Jason's side, he had Deshaun Watson in his starting lineup, putting up 16 points. Najee Harris had 23 points. Najee Harris has a great game, and is still his backup outperforms him. You can't even call Jalen Warren the backup anymore. The better running back. I don't know. Still, great game for Najee Harris, 23 points. Javonte Williams, 26. Chris Godwin, 9. Michael Pittman, 16. Gerald Everett, 0 points. Terry McLaurin, 7 points. Bench-wise, Jerome Ford had 16 points. I don't know where you would have started him. I mean, Terry McLaurin's been playing pretty well, so you know, probably the right move there. Dan had Lamar Jackson, who put up 13 points. James Cook with 15. Tyler Algier with 7. Garrett Wilson had a nice game, 18 points. If you guys saw that game, he had Zach Wilson threw a dart to him at the end, and he didn't catch it. Would have been not enough points to win, but would have been a hell of a catch. Calvin Ridley, 4 points. I'm going to be doing a by draft analysis of best pick and worst picked, and I got a feeling Calvin Ridley is going to be pretty high up there on the bust side there, unfortunately. Jake Ferguson with 13. Gabe Davis, hey, you get on that horse, you're gonna ride it. 10 points. 10 points. Not too bad. On the bench, nothing that could have won in the game. I mean, some good performances, but yeah, nothing that would have got the victory there. So Jason wins. Congratulations. We're 2-1 on the picks. Next pick, we've got JT and Trent, and I did pick JT to win, and I was right. He won 155-113. He's 5-5. Mr. Trent, he's 6-4. Trent started Derek Carr, who had 5 points. He did get hurt. Jameis Winston went in. Rashad White had 23 points. Alvin Kamara, 21 points. Jacoby Myers, 4 points. Khalil Shakir, 3 points. Chigi Okonkwo, 6 points. Jamar Chase, 23 points. Um, and then, believe it or not, kicker, 21 points. MVP. On the bench, Brian Robinson had 30 points. He got beat down pretty nice, so would not have mattered. JT started Justin Herbert, who had 28. Derrick Henry with 6 points. Saquon Barkley with 10. CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb said he's taking over, man. He's Thanos right now. He's taking all the touchdowns. Here's Tony Pollard's touchdown, taking it. What's that guy's name? Michael Gallup. Just, I don't know. Actually, I don't know if those other guys scored touchdowns. I know Tony Pollard didn't. So CeeDee Lamb scored 40 points. That's nice. Mike Evans had 26. Dalton Schultz 11, and Donta Foreman in the flex 22 points. On the bench, Tyler Lockett had 23. Jaden Reed had 19. Both pretty cool. Good numbers there. Um, didn't need him because he won by 40 points. We picked JT. We're 3-1 on the picks. And the next pick, Alex and Fat. I picked Alex to win. I made Alex my lock. You know what? I'm pretty sure every time I picked Alex for anything, I think he knows it. I think he knows it. And he does the opposite. Um, Alex, he's 5-5 on the year after this. And Fat, 4-6 on the year after this, winning 162 to 106. Alex started Baker Mayfield with 18, Christian McCaffrey with 24, Travis Etienne with 9, Deontay Johnson with 3, Marquise Brown with 4, Dalton Kincaid with 16, Jahmyr Gibbs with 30, and on the bench, nothing really. Um, Fat. Fat had 38 points out of Dak Prescott. I'm surprised he started him because he still has Russell Wilson on his team. Um, Russell Wilson has dirt on Fat. That's why he starts him every week. I don't know what it is, but this whatever happened, he got off the spell this week, and Dak Prescott went off 38 points. Tony Pollard had 9, but doesn't matter when you got Dak. Bijan Robinson came back. I guess he got out of being grounded. 23 points. Keenan Allen 41 points. Christian Kirk with 14 points. Mark Andrews with 6. And oh my God, Alexander Madison was in the starting lineup, 6 points. Cam Akers was gone for the year. We thought maybe this was Madison's backfield again. I don't think so. Looks like it's going to be going to the next running back. On his bench, Joshua Dobbs, another QB, 25 points. Not as high as Dak, but I noticed something when I was going through some lineups, just checking out rankings and stuff like that. And now that I'm actually reviewing these two, it makes sense to bring it up. There were only 2 teams in the entire league that rostered less than 4 receivers. Then they're related. Abernathy's, for some reason, they have an aversion to wide receivers. They had 3 wide receivers each. For context, I think I currently have 6 wide receivers. I've definitely had 7 before. I may have had as many as 8 wide receivers on my lineup at one point in time, possibly. So I found that interesting. Um, Fat has 3 quarterbacks and 3 wide receivers. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but there's only one spot where the quarterback can play. There's 3 where a wide receiver can play. But I'm in full support of this. It's good for the league. So hold on to your QBs, and when their value increases, I wish you well on those trades. And then on the other side, Alex, he also has 3 wide receivers, and he's got 3 defenses. One, two. They made some cuts. He cut one. He cut one. And you know what? I think I got news that No, Alex added one. Whenever I was looking at this, Alex had 3 wide receivers and 3 defenses, and Fat had 3 wide receivers and 3 QBs. I think since then, Fat has added a wide receiver, but I feel like he's had about 3 wide receivers all season. Not saying that's his problem at all. At all. He just put up 162 points, so what do I know? 4-6, Alex 5-5. They're both still in it. The last matchup of the week. This was my upset of the week. Frank, crying cat face emoji over Jordan. Team this year will be different. You sure about that? Are are you sure about that? Frank just put up 178 points. That was that the high score of the season. That might be. Um, Somebody might have got it in the 80s. I don't know. It wasn't me. Jordan put up 106. Jordan's side, 14 points out of Josh Allen, 20 points out of Jonathan Taylor. Mike Boone, if you're wondering who that is, me too. He had 3 points. He plays, I don't know if he got cut, for the Texans. Stephon Diggs had 6 points. Jordan Addison, 11. TJ Hawkinson, 30 points. And Adam Thielen with 10 points. On Jordan's bench, nothing there. I mean, the only other, he could have started Elijah Mitchell and got 4 points instead of 3 points. So I guess technically that would have been quite a jump in the percentages, but not too much going on there. Frank said we got some action here, boss. 24 points out of Gino, 26 points out of Austin Eckler, 24 points out of Kenneth Walker, 21 points out of Chris Olave, 32 points out of Brandon Cooks, 20 points out of George Kittle, and 12 points, 13 points out of Gus Edwards. And you know what? On his bench, nothing crazy. Brock Purdy had 23 points. T. Higgins was out again, but didn't like. I mean, Frank had 2 wide receivers in his lineup. One went for 20 and one went for 30. So maybe it was a blessing that Higgins was out that year, that week. Congrats, Frank. 6-4. Let's see how that impacted the rankings. In the 12th spot, we got Scott. So because I'm smart like that, that tells me that he does have the lowest points in the league, because otherwise I would have ranked him 11th, which is where Dan is. In the 10th spot, we got Mr. Brent. In the 9th spot, we got Marshall. In the 8th spot, we got Fathu McConaughey. Fat. In the 7th spot, Jason. Sixth in the rankings, we got Alex. 5th, we got JT. 6th, we've got, 4th, I should say. In the 4th spot, we got Frank. In the 3 spot, we got Trent. In the 2 spot, we got Jordan. And in the 1 spot, we got Orlando. Now, I will say, one team that I had a hard time with, and I kind of wanted to bump them up real nice. 2 teams I kind of thought about were Frank and JT, just because well, Frank put up a huge number this week. JT, he's been on a tear for a few weeks. If JT has another great game, it might not matter what the records are. He might get a nice bump. I don't know. We'll see. Really depends on this matchup with Jordan and Frank, I believe, is the matchup. Let's look at the new week. Pulling up picks. Picks and matchups. First matchup is myself versus Trent. I'm 10-0. He's 6-4. Projections are 136 to 124 in my favor. I am going to lean with myself. I've got Joe Burrow. He's versus the Ravens. I've got Devon Achane. Should be back. He's back. Ain't nothing about it. He's back. It still says he's on IR, but we don't care. He's back. He's playing the Raiders. Josh Jacobs playing the Dolphins. Amon-Ra St. Brown playing the Bears. A.J. Brown versus the Chiefs. Sam Laporta versus the Bears. Breece Hall versus the Bills. Assuming Devon Achane is in, this is my optimal lineup that we are hoping stays healthy. that can carry us through. Um, Trent, we got beautiful Zach Wilson playing Buffalo. Rashad White versus the Niners. James Conner versus Houston. Cooper Kupp versus Seahawks. Jalen Waddle versus the Raiders. Chigi Okonkwo versus the Jags. Jamar Chase versus the Ravens. Um, Trent's only other backup quarterback is Derek Carr, who's on a bye and questionable. And he's still got Kirk Cousins in his IR, which is nice. You know, I don't know. I mean, Zach Wilson outscored Trevor Lawrence last week, so what do I know? I'm gonna favor myself. I think this will be a very good matchup. His wide receivers, they're scary. Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase. I mean, they could just blow some stuff up, but I've got pretty equal firepower as well. So, and I've got Joe Burrow versus Zach Wilson. So, I should, even with Burrow in a tough matchup, I feel like he should take advantage of that. Um, the next matchup is Dan versus Brent, and my pick. Whoops. Let me edit this. I picked Brent over Scott in that matchup, but the funny thing is that the matchup is not Brent versus Scott. It's Brent versus Dan. Sorry about that. But I am picking Dan in that matchup. Projections were 121 and to 105 in favor of Brent. Brent's 3-7, Dan's 2-8. Brent's going to be playing Sam Howell versus the Giants. Aaron Jones questionable versus the Chargers. Raheem Mostert versus the Raiders, who is also questionable. And Devontae Adams versus the Dolphins. Deebo Samuel versus the Bucks. Logan Thomas versus the Giants. DK Metcalf versus the Rams. And Dan's got Lamar Jackson versus the Bengals. James Cook versus the Jets. He's starting Keaton Mitchell tonight, baby, versus the Bengals. Garrett Wilson versus Buffalo. Noah Brown versus Arizona. Wilson and Noah Brown are both questionable. Jake Ferguson versus Carolina. Oh my God, they're gonna die. And Gabe Davis versus the Jets. Just think if those red letters go away, I think Bryce got some firepower. I think that's a nice matchup for him. Next matchup, JT 5-5, Jason 5-5. Not gonna lie, I didn't even really look at this matchup when I picked it. I just seen that JT's just been putting up all these points, and we just picked him again. So we'll see. Let's take a look. Justin Herbert, he's playing Green Bay. Derrick Henry's playing the Jags. Saquon Barkley's playing the Commanders. CeeDee Lamb's playing the Panthers. Mike Evans, the Niners. Dalton Schultz, the Cardinals. DeAndre Swift, the Chiefs. And Jason's side, he's got Mahomes versus the Eagles. Najee Harris versus the Browns. Jerome Ford versus the Steelers. Terry McLaurin versus the Giants. Nico Collins, questionable versus the Cardinals. Travis Kelce versus the Eagles. And Javonte Williams in the flex versus the Vikings. I don't really like his matchups on his running backs. I think they're both pretty tough. So, yeah, I feel pretty good about JT continuing his path of destruction. The next matchup here is, let's make sure we got the names right here. It's Fat and Marshall. Projections on this one, 127. Hey, what the hell? Was this last week? Oh, we just cut that one off. Nice. 121 to 112. We'll see the projections for Fat. In favor of Fat. You know what? I asked the chat. I said, "Who's my lock of the week? Who's feeling it?" One man stepped up. His name is Marshall. He said this is his week. So I'm picking him. He's my lock of the week. We don't care what the projections say. Marshall's going to be rolling out Jalen Hurts versus the Chiefs. David Montgomery versus the Bears. Joe Mixon versus the Ravens. Devonta Smith versus the Chiefs. DJ Moore versus the Lions. Luke Musgrave, this guy's making the rounds, versus the Chargers. Quentin Johnson, I was kind of wondering who was going to pick him up, versus the Packers in the flex. And on fat side, Dak Prescott versus the Panthers. Tony Pollard versus the Panthers. Rico Dowdle versus the Panthers. Keenan Allen, questionable, versus Green Bay. Christian Kirk versus Tennessee. Mark Andrews versus Cincinnati. Puka Nacua versus the Eagles. I just that was pretty funny seeing. Uh, I think that's a little bit of that's definitely a detriment against the Panthers, but it's also Tony Pollard was Fat's first pick of the draft, and he's currently starting him and his backup because one of them is going to hit versus the Panthers, but we're not sure it's going to be Tony Pollard. So I get it. I get it. But you know what? I feel great about this matchup. Marshall is going to win. This is a lock, and I've never felt better about a lock. Also, I don't know, fat and win streaks. Like I said, they don't sound good. So let's just go ahead and end that one. The next matchup of the week. Where'd these dang picks go? Alex and Jordan. Now, we were talking about win streaks. This one, I think we got might have a little losing streak going here. We got Jordan versus Alex. Jordan's 8-2. Alex is 5-5. Jordan is projected to lose 127 to 136, and I think I agree with it. Jordan's got Josh Allen playing the Jets. He's got Damian Pierce in his lineup, who's questionable playing Arizona. I don't know if he's got a job. Did y'all see Devin Singletary had 30 points? The Texans haven't ran the ball except for that one game with that guy. So, I don't know. I think best case scenario for Mr. Pierce is it's a split backfield at this point. Isaiah Pacheco is playing Philly. Joe Mixon would look pretty nice right there. He was there. Tyreek Hill playing the Raiders. Stephon Diggs versus the Jets. TJ Hawkinson, questionable, playing Denver. And Adam Thielen playing Dallas. Alex has Justin Fields versus Detroit. Christian McCaffrey versus the Bucks. Travis Etienne versus the Titans. Marquise Brown versus the Texans. Zay Flowers versus the Bengals. Dalton Kincaid versus the Jets. Jahmyr Gibbs in the flex versus the Bears. I like it. We're going with Alex to put Jordan on a 2-game losing streak. And I don't think there is a team with 3 losses right now because Trent lost last week. Yeah, so he'll still be in the spot for second, but he might be feeling a little pressure for that bye if he gets this loss. The next matchup, the last matchup, definitely not the worst matchup. Scott versus Frank. Scott's 2-8. Frank is 6-4. Frank just put up a whole ton of points. I was thinking going into this matchup that I was going to be picking him, but I took a little look at the lineups and I'm leaning in the other direction here. The projected scores were 117 for Scott and to 122 for Frank. Frank's got Brock Purdy versus the Bucks, Austin Eckler versus Green Bay, Kenneth Walker III versus the Rams, Brandon Cooks versus the Panthers, Trenton Irwin versus Baltimore, George Kittle versus the Bucks, and Gus Edwards versus the Bengals. And since I'm late on recording this, I can see that he scored a touchdown already. But that doesn't change anything because the picks go in before the game starts. You know what I'm saying? On my mother. On my mother. On my friggin' mother. On my fucking mother. But also you can see they go in the Discord. So they do go in there. Scott's side. CJ Stroud versus Arizona. Jalen Warren versus the Browns. Ty Chandler versus Denver. Amari Cooper versus Pittsburgh. DeAndre Hopkins versus the Jags. Evan Ingram versus the Titans. Brandon Ayuk versus Tampa Bay. In the flex. I think the matchups are pretty even. I think I think Frank maybe hurt. You know what? I don't know. I was going to say Brandon Cooks and Trent Irwin don't necessarily scare me as wide receivers. And I remember Brandon Cooks had like 30 points last week, and he's playing the Panthers, so it's a pretty good matchup. I still think I'd probably prefer the Cooper Hopkins side. Um, I think that Scott can squeeze this one out. I think Scott might be able to squeeze this one out. CJ Stroud's been balling. Jalen Warren, he's been playing very good. He's playing Cleveland. They don't have a quarterback anymore. I think the Steelers are going to play a real ugly game and grind it out, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got a victory over Cleveland. Um, so much like that game, I think this will be an ugly matchup. I'm not projecting 180 points to be scored, or 177, whatever Frank scored, but um, having said that, now this will probably be the highest score of the week. But I'm projecting an ugly matchup, ugly fight, and Scott squeaks it out, much like last week's matchup that he had, except this time maybe on the positive. We'll pray on it. I forgot to even mention the lock of the week was Marshall. Yes. But if you guys noticed, I did not pick a crying cat face emoji upset of the week, and that's because it is also Marshall. He is my lock and my upset. Never before happened. I felt like it was the right time to do it for my number one fan. We appreciate you. Man and Curse, we got love for you. It's week 11. It's week 11. This is it. 3 weeks. It's this week, this week, next week, the week after, and we're in the playoffs. So y'all got 3 games to figure out who is going to be the Sacko, and we got 3 games to see who's going to lock in these playoff spots, so somebody can get it. Somebody can get a W, a championship, a little sweet title, a little sweet title. We're rooting for you. We love you. Man and Curse. Bye.